Just going to wait a couple more minutes for everyone to get in. Chantel, you can just type your question in the chat if you'd like, so you have your hand up. Let's wait a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay. So we're going to get started today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of our Adam Talks Mental Illness Awareness virtual seminar. We're so excited for all of you to be here. Today's presentation is What is Mindfulness with Ginger Blakey. My name is Vienna Code, and I am the Public Education Coordinator here at Adam, and I will be your host for today and the rest of the seminars this week. First, I just want to let everyone know that no one can see you or hear you. Your audio is automatically turned off, so you don't need to worry about that. First of all, I want to thank my colleagues, Susanna and Carlene, who have helped make this event possible. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers as well for contributing to this project and making this possible. Before I hand things over to our guest speaker today, I'd like to briefly go over what Adam is and who we are. So the Anxiety Disorders Association of Manitoba is a nonprofit registered charity and peer support organization. We offer self-help programs for all Manitobans who are affected by anxiety disorders. All of our staff here have lived experience with anxiety, and our programs are offered to those over the age of 18 and are based on cognitive behavioral therapy. And we provide ongoing support groups for prevention, education, and management of anxiety disorders for adults. I'll go over a few housekeeping things to start. So I do want to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded, and we were unable to set up the closed captioning, but it will be available on the recording of this presentation. Bev, you said in the chat, you want to make sure you're muted. You are. Every participant is muted, so you don't need to worry about that. We will spend 10 minutes at the end of the presentation taking questions. So there is a question and answer box in Zoom, so you can just type your questions in there whenever throughout the presentation, but we will get to them at the end. Before presenting our speaker, I'd like to do a brief land acknowledgement. So I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here on Treaty 1 territory, which is the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, the Dene, the Cree, the Oji-Cree, and the Dakota people, and the homelands of the Métis Nation. We remember that all of the people, all of the generations for thousands of years who lived, loved, worked, died, and were buried on this land remain here. They have not left, they've merely been transformed. We remember to tread softly on this earth as we offer our respect and gratitude to the traditional caretakers of this land, those living now, and those who have lived before, and those who have yet to come into being. I would now like to introduce our speaker for the afternoon, Ginger Blakey. Ginger Blakey is the former wellness program facilitator for the city of Winnipeg with a background in human resource management. Ginger took a mindfulness-based stress reduction course in 2016 and has been practicing mindfulness ever since. Having lived with anxiety for most of her life, she has found that the practice of mindful meditation has been a helpful tool in managing it. Her interests include the impact of mindful meditation on people who live with anxiety and helping those in the community discover how mindfulness can be a helpful tool for them. So welcome, Ginger, and thank you for being here. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Vienna, for that beautiful introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ginger Blakey. I'm also a volunteer here at ADAM. I volunteer doing mindful meditation sessions every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And as Vienna said, I am the former wellness program facilitator at the city of Winnipeg. As my position there, I adapted wellness programs and courses for city staff. While I was employed there, I also held a workplace mindfulness facilitator certification through Mindful Leader. So I'm just grateful to be here with you to talk about a topic that I'm absolutely passionate about. But before I get started into this presentation, I just want us to take a minute or two just to connect with our breath. I mean, that's what mindfulness is, right? It's just sort of taking a minute or two, if you like, just to close your eyes down. If that works for you, you don't have to close your eyes, you can keep them open, but just basically connecting with your breath. Just taking a minute just to center and just take notice of breathing, because we've been breathing all day long and we probably haven't really stopped to take notice of breathing. So just take a minute to connect with your breath, letting go of whatever you were doing before you got here to this presentation. For the next hour, we're here together in the Zoom room. Just taking that moment to connect with your breath. When ready, opening your eyes. All right, so I'll start by saying that I'm not a meditation teacher. As Vienna said, I took a mindfulness-based stress reduction course over about 6 years ago, and I've maintained a mindful meditation practice ever since. And as a result of my passion for the topic, I'm here to share my knowledge and hopefully help others to discover something that might help them. Mindfulness-based stress reduction program is an 8-week evidence-based program that offers secular, intensive mindfulness training to assist people with stress, anxiety, depression, and pain. It was developed at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center in the 1970s by Professor John Kabat-Zinn. In my personal experience, having incorporated a mindful practice in place for the past 6 years, it's helped me to become more self-aware of my thoughts, my emotions, how they affect me, and how I relate to all the thoughts that come up in my head. So being more mindful has taught me to appreciate living in the moment and really noticing the world around me. So treaty acknowledgement, Vienna's taking care of that. The virtual housekeeping, I think we can skip past that. Our learning objectives for today. So describing the impact of stress on the body, explaining the importance of meditation and stress reduction, and managing anxiety. Discuss the 4 main brain systems enhanced by mindfulness, have an opportunity to practice mindful meditation, and then talk about meditation resources that you can use online, etc., and in the community. So what is mindfulness? So basically, mindfulness is a state of active, open attention on the present moment, right? So mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we pay attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. This is John Kabat-Zinn's definition of mindfulness. So when you're mindful, you observe your thoughts and feelings from a distance, so without judging them good or bad. Instead of letting your life pass you by, mindfulness means living in the moment and really awakening to experience instead of being mindless. And so a quick example of being mindless, or when we're on autopilot, is one where you get into your car and you drive somewhere and you've completely gotten to your journey, wherever that was, at work or whatever. You arrive there and you don't even realize what you passed on your way. That's an example of mindlessness, or being on autopilot, right? So when we're not really engaging with our surroundings and what it is that we're doing and really living in the moment. So Professor John Kabat-Zinn, who developed the MBSR program at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center in the 1970s, the program uses a combination of mindfulness meditation, body awareness, yoga, and exploration of patterns of behavior, thinking, feeling, and action. So mindfulness versus meditation. So I always say to people, and I talk about this on Tuesdays, when you think mindfulness, think awareness. So mindfulness, being mindful, is the ability to be fully aware of what's happening in any given moment without judging, right? And that's tough for us as humans not to judge, right? We're always kind of judging our thoughts and the things that come up for us, right? Good and bad. So it's without getting caught up in our own thoughts. It's a way for us to observe our thoughts and emotions so that we can better control them instead of allowing them to control us. And so when you think meditation, you think concentration. So by concentrating on a focus point, such as the breath, which is what we do in the meditations, we focus on breathing, we focus on our body sensations, and we focus on sounds. Those are the ways that we practice mindfulness or meditation in a sitting. So that's kind of the sitting practice. Practicing mindfulness and meditation trains us to be more present and self-aware in our lives. So stress reactions. So when we talk about stress, right, and what that looks like. So stress happens when body and mind must cope with an environmental, physical, or emotional change. So taking a look at this slide, just taking a minute to reflect on your own stress reactions. So when you think about how stress feels on your body, how it affects your mood, and how it affects your behavior. So I know for myself personally, for me, my stress and anxiety manifests itself in stomach upset, chest pain. I have checked into the emergency room with chest pain from panic. Irritability is another one. Not eating. So take a look at those and sort of think to yourself, how does that look for you? And we humans are in fight, flight, or freeze mode a lot of the time these days because of constant demands on our bodies and our minds. There's a need to build in ways to pay attention and manage our stress because of our lifestyles and our environments. It makes sense that we need to build in time for rest and stillness to give our minds and bodies a chance to just be quiet and observe. This for me, is what mindfulness does. When I start to get overwhelmed and feel like there's just too much coming at me, I need to go into a safe space, into a quiet space, and connect with myself, right? That's the way that I think of it. It's like really just connecting with me and what's going on inside of me. So talk about the book. There's a book that I read a number of years ago. It's called When the Body Says No. It's the Cost of Hidden Stress, and it's written by Gabor Mate, who's written a lot of books. He's a Canadian author, doctor. He says that medical science searches high and low for the causes of cancer, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome, and a host of other conditions. Yet it often ignores one of the most pervasive factors leading to illness, the hidden stresses embedded in our daily lives. And stress can literally make us sick if we're not managing, right? Although stress is often thought of as a negative response, but in many cases, stress can provide the push that we need to finish something too. So it's not all bad. It's just how we're managing it when it's coming up for us. So the science. So this slide is basically talking about the science, the kind of the neuroscience behind mindful meditation. I felt like I wanted to put this slide into this presentation because I know there are some folks out there that are kind of thinking it's like hooty-doo, and that it's, that there isn't some scientific backing behind it. And there is scientific backing behind it. And so through the process of what is called neuroplasticity, now I'm not a neuroscientist, this is information that I've taken from the neuroscientists who've done some of the research studies. Consistent long-term meditation practice has been shown to change the functional connectivity of our brains. Meditations in the mindfulness tradition enhance the four brain systems. So these are the systems that I make mention of in our Tuesday evening meditation practices. So the resilience system, so this is the network for stress regulation and equanimity in our brains. The attention system, the networks for attention, focus, and distraction inhibition. This is where that concentration piece comes in. So when we practice concentration, this is how we build on our attention system. The connection system is the network for compassion and empathy. And the meta-awareness system, the network for awareness of one's sense of self, the stories and the patterns. This is where, when we participate in mindfulness and meditation, we actually start to look and observe our own thoughts that come up for us quite regularly, right? And so we can almost separate ourselves from them and really look and watch and see what keeps coming up for us. And so the meditations that I do on Tuesdays are based on John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction course. So we're dealing with these 4 systems. And I like to give people kind of that background information as to why it is we're doing these types of practices. So I like to give opportunities to try different things to see what works for different people. So how does mindfulness help anxiety? Well, mindfulness stress reduction practices, such as the ones done on Tuesday evenings, allow you to bring kind awareness and acknowledgement to any stressed or anxious feelings within your body and mind, and simply allow them to be. According to research, when you can create space between yourself and what you're experiencing, your anxiety can soften. Mindfulness is an adjunct, or as I say, it's another tool, not a replacement for treatment. Meditation does seem to improve mental health, but it's not necessarily more effective than other steps that you can take. So really, I'm saying this as it's a combination of things. Mindfulness calms anxious feelings by allowing you to safely explore the underlying causes of your stress and worry, by going with what's happening rather than expanding energy, fighting, or turning away from it. You create the opportunity to gain insights into what's driving your concerns. So I personally have had to take other steps, such as medication, therapy, including a regular mindfulness and breath practice, as well as yoga. So for me, all of these things are what help me to manage, right? It's a combination of things. The most important thing that I've gained from a regular practice is self-awareness. And of course, different things work for different people. And now when I mean that, the self-awareness piece, meaning the more that I've done that observation of my thoughts and the way my anxiety comes up and the things that I need to do and accept it, that's the other part, the big acceptance piece. It just helps me to be able to manage it in a better way. And then practice, I say on the slide, because it's the consistency of it, really, that even when you're using breathing techniques, to do them daily. Doing them daily promotes that type of exercise, right? And so it's a practice that you can rely on. And so the more you practice it, the more helpful it becomes. So 4 things to remember for meditation, okay? So I will say, no expectations. So don't expect, so I think when I started MBSR, I thought, oh, I'm going to be, completely blissful and I'm never going to have a worry. And, and that's not it. It's not it at all. Don't expect blank or calm mind or to be blissful immediately. Have an open mind. So basically going into it completely open, no expectations, no judgment. Having no judgment, that's a tough one for us as humans, because as I said, we tend to judge most things that come up for us on ourselves, especially, we're always harder on ourselves than we even are on others. But having no judgment of yourself or your experience. So no judgments, no frustrations, right? So no judgment if emotions arise that you may not expect, especially during, challenging times. No worries if you take a nap. So there's been times where people get so relaxed that they end up nodding off, and that's okay too. It means you just needed to recharge in that moment. and being an observer. So gently witnessing your thoughts and emotions with compassionate curiosity. So it's like I say, when we're in that, we're kind of watching and really seeing what's coming up for us and being curious about it. And that maintaining a beginner's mind, that is actually one of the 7 attitudinal foundations that John Kabat-Zinn came up with in MBSR, is to approach each meditation with a fresh mindset instead of trying to recreate an experience. I also describe a beginner's mind as the way that you went about things back when you were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, when you were absolutely impressionable, when you looked up at the sky and into the clouds and you lied on the grass and you really had no care, right? And as we become adults, we tend to let go of some of that awe and that wonder. And mindfulness has actually brought that back for me. I've done a lot of practices in places. I find that being out in nature is extremely relaxing for me. So I tend to make a point of being out in nature, in trees, especially now at this beautiful time of year, taking walks outdoors and meditating out in nature, and really seeing things with awe, finding extraordinary in the ordinary. That's something that I've learned through practicing mindfulness as well. And so in this, when you're doing meditation, your job is to focus, right? Notice when your mind wanders and then refocus, right? Over and over. That's what I call the workout for the mind. So, right? So don't expect a blank mind. Allow. So you're just allowing what's coming up rather than trying to achieve something. So those are things to remember when you start to incorporate a practice. So mindful meditation apps. Now there's a lot of apps out here. I've only listed 5 of them here. But if you basically go into your app store and kind of plug in, there's the Calm app. I do believe the Calm app now has charged. It isn't exactly free anymore. Insight Timer is the app that I use almost every day. It has all kinds of different meditations. It's got music. It's got a timer so that you can do silent meditations with a timed clock. It also has a lot of courses. I finally, after about 4 years of using it free, I finally paid for it. I think it cost me about $78 for the year. But you can access all the courses that it offers. There are some fantastic courses in Insight Timer. But even if you don't go that way, as I said, there's just tons of different beginner meditations, lots of different practitioners. I highly recommend that. Smiling Mind, that's one that's based out of Australia. Another one that is a really good app, really good, useful app. My Life Meditation, UCLA Mindful, Healthy Minds Program. It's a matter of just Googling them and checking them out. Headspace is another one. Headspace is one that I typically recommend for children, for kids. Kind of has that visual where you see the orange circle kind of breathing in and out, right? Just to give you that visual as to what you're trying to achieve when you're doing a meditation. So those are some of the apps. And then of course the resources. So the number one, mindful meditation sessions that I lead every Tuesday. These are done through Atom, so they can be accessed through the Atom website or through the Atom email account. Mindfulness-based stress reduction course through Mindful Leader. I took my mindfulness course through Clinic, so that's Clinic with a K. I don't know that they are offering it anymore. I feel like since COVID, CMHA was one that also offered it. It seems that things have mostly gone on to virtual platforms. But it is worth looking into. I know that Mindful Leader is offering it, and they do offer a really good course. Mindful.org. This is where I've taken a lot of my information for this presentation. So the Mindful magazine, I subscribe to it. It's got literally articles that talk about the science behind mindfulness, as well as meditations. So there are meditations that you can actually listen to on the site. mindful meditation books by John Kabat-Zinn. Of course, he has a number of titles. Again, just Googling John Kabat-Zinn and some of the books that he's put out. Little Book of Mindfulness, 10 minutes a day to less stress, more peace. 5-minute meditation, mindfulness, stress relief, and focus. All great books. Again, there's the World Wide Web and we can access a lot of information on it. So if you're looking for more, you can absolutely find it online. And so the practice. So here's where we're going to do a meditation practice. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to practice meditation. And then we'll do some questions later on. So what I'll do is I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to set it for about 10 minutes or so. And I'm going to lead you through meditation. So I invite you to get into a position, if you're in a seated position, finding your feet flat on the floor, finding your hands and arms resting in a comfortable position that's good for you for the time that we're doing this sit together. Closing your eyes, if that's comfortable for you, by no means you do not have to close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open. You can use a downward gaze that's kind of blurred so that you're not distracted by things in your peripheral vision. So do what's comfortable for you. Settling down into the chair, settling into the moment, settling into the space, and just allowing yourself this opportunity just to be here and now. For the next few moments, allowing yourself to come into stillness, letting go of doing, coming into being. Just allowing yourself to unwind into a simple state of being. Sitting comfortably in the present position that you're in, being right where you are. Taking some deep, full breaths. Taking those big belly breaths where you actually feel your abdomen expanding. Feel the air entering into your nostrils. And doing a scan, doing a quick scan from the top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your toes. And so taking notice of the muscles in your face and your forehead, allowing the space between your brows to soften, allowing the cheeks to soften, letting the jaw relax down, letting your shoulders fall down and away from your ears. Noticing the pressure of the chair, your bottom pressing against it, noticing it on the back of your thighs. Noticing your feet, making connection with the floor. And breathing. As you inhale, feel your breath flowing deep into your body. And as you exhale, feel the release and notice the calm, satisfied state of your body. With each breath, we become more deeply relaxed, more deeply present. Again, simply observing, watching, and noticing the natural flow of breathing. As you sit in presence, you may notice how your mind begins to wander. You may find that stories and thoughts, past or the future, seem to come up for you. And this is all natural and normal. The same way that the lungs breathe, the mind thinks. That's its job. Just observing what comes up. And then refocusing your attention on breathing. Continuing to follow the breath. Again, noticing areas of contact with the body, the surface that it's resting on. Allowing your body to feel fully supported by the surface that it's resting on. Just allowing gravity to keep you in place. As we allow our minds to wander freely, will often take our attention out of the present moment. And as a result, we're no longer fully aware of this moment. You can even notice sounds around you in your environment. So just taking notice of what sounds come up for you. This meditation, we're training ourselves in mindfulness. And so for this reason, when we noticed our wandering mind, we can be grateful for yet another opportunity to bring it back to the present. It's not bad that the mind wanders. You need not become frustrated by it. For it is the wandering that allows us to recognize our state of mindlessness and then return ourselves to being mindful. That is your practice over and over. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. If it's helpful, you can even count the breaths as you're breathing in, counting from 1 to 8, 1 to 10. So a full breath cycle would be 1, 2, 3, and so on. as we come toward the end of this short meditation, this experiment in mindfulness meditation. It's taking a moment of gratitude for yourself and for taking this opportunity, being open to giving it a try, bringing yourself back into the room and space that you're in, perhaps bringing some movement back into the body if that's what's needed today. Stretch, and when you're ready, opening your eyes, coming back into the room and the space you're in. So now I would ask you to reflect. So basically reflecting on how that was for you, which is another thing that we do on our weekly meditation sessions. We go through this session just as we did, and then we do a quick kind of check-in, checking in with yourself as to what that was like for you, what you noticed, what came up for you. Remembering that this is a practice, it's something that you do consistently. So for those of you who are wanting to establish a practice and try to incorporate it, I recommend breathing. So there's a book out there called The Happiness Trap. It's by Russ Harris. And in that, it's basically based on the ACT, which is another acceptance commitment therapy. But what he does is he just basically says to incorporate breathing, just literally wherever you're at. And I usually tend to do this in transitions. So transitions, by transitions, I mean in the morning when I'm waking up and getting out of bed, at night before I'm going to bed, when I get home from work, right? Or when I'm going to work and starting. Those are what I call kind of my transitions. That's where I will tend to focus on breathing. So it's kind of becomes like you have your triggers and sort of your things that, not triggers, but points that you will, shaking up keys or starting up your car or whatever it is that you use, standing in line at the grocery store. That's another one I use. So just standing, I'll bring my attention to my breath. And so basically what we're doing when we do that is we're just consistently bringing our attention to breathing and to center ourselves in those moments, right? So instead of our minds fleeting all over the place, we can bring it to a focus point. And that focus point is your breath in your body. And it's always there for you. So it's really something for me in the last 6 years that when I find that I'm feeling overwhelmed, I find that my mind is racing, I'm nervous and anxious, I do the check-in. And I recommend doing check-ins quite regularly and then using breath, right? Because using our breath is what calms us. Like it's that vagus nerve inside of our brain that gets to the rest and digest when we use our breath. And I'm talking big belly breaths here. Those big belly breaths are literally what enact our rest and digest within our brains. So in order to establish a program, or sorry, a practice, I just recommend really paying attention to your breathing as regularly as you can, right? And then you can kind of incorporate actual meditation sit practices. And so again, those are things you can set for yourself. So morning time, I want to do a 5-minute meditation. Evening time, I want to do a 5 to 10-minute meditation. Yoga practice is also another one that is extremely helpful in centering yourself. It's actually can be easier to do because when you're in yoga, you're really focusing on the poses that you're doing. So it's easy to really focus on breath in the movements and focus on the points within the body. And so that is the end of my presentation. And so again, my name is Ginger Blakey. I thank you so much for your time and attention, and I hope you've gained some helpful information. And I will turn it back over to Vienna.
Thank you so much, Ginger. That was fabulous, very useful. I will now open the floor for questions. We did have a couple come in during your presentation, so I will start with those. From Diane, will we be able to save the slides for future use? I can actually answer that one. So we will be sending this recording to all the participants that were registered. You will get it by email next week. So you will have a chance to review these slides. And then Diane also asked, are your Tuesday sessions on Zoom?
Yes, they are. Yep, there is a Zoom link that is accessed, I believe, through Adam at adam.mu.ca.
Yeah, so I will reiterate that. Adam offers a mindful meditation practice every Tuesday from 7 to 7:30 with Ginger. So if you enjoyed this presentation, you can see her once a week. If you are interested in registering, you can email us adam@adam.mb.ca and we can get you registered, and you'll get a link weekly. And it is on Zoom, as Ginger said before. We have another question from Lisa in the chat. She said, regarding breath, what is the name of this book again?
Oh, so the Happiness Trap by Russ. Oh, I can't remember his name. Russ Harper? Russ Harris, my bad.
Russ Harris.
And it's acceptance commitment therapy is actually what the book is based on. And so I actually have read this book because it's based on mindfulness. So it's kind of like CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, only it's using mindfulness and so what we start to do is it's a combination of using mindfulness and that breath work with kind of like what is cognitive behavioral therapy as a therapy method.
Great, thank you. Any more questions? You can put them in the question and answer box, and Ginger would be happy to answer them for you. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes just if they want to ask anything.
Yeah. Thanks, Becky. That's awesome. I know we're here for a little bit less time than we thought. I cut some things out of my presentation, but I feel like it's more the meditation when we do the practice. It gives you, an actual experience of it, right? And it's just something that it's something that is done consistently in order for us to see those gains. That's the one thing that I can really impress upon people is being consistent about it,
We do have another question from Alana. Can we drop in on the Zoom sessions?
I believe that they actually have to be, the link gets emailed to everyone on the list. Yeah. I think that Susanna has a list and she emails everyone with that link weekly. Vienna emails it out.
Yeah, so Alana, you're more than welcome to try one out. And if you don't enjoy it, we can happily remove you from the list. It's no trouble. So it's very seamless to register. All we really need is your email and you'll receive the weekly links. And I can almost guarantee you will not drop out because they are so great.
And the other thing about it is it would also, it's drop-in, so you don't have to do it every week.
Right.
But even the idea of doing different types of breath exercises, and I'm trying to incorporate some of that too, because I like to be able to use, for panic, there are some really good breathing exercises, and I have a handout that I created. It's called grounding techniques, like they're just literally grounding techniques. And there's a number of techniques that we can use just when we're in those moments that I'd like to practice too, because again, those are ones that if you do live with that, they need to be practiced daily as well in order for them to be, to work for you in those moments. So the more we practice it, the better.
Yeah, my colleague Susanna just let everyone know in the chat that participants do not have to attend weekly. You can just attend when you can. So even though you're registered, just pop in whenever you're available, and it'll be there for you.
And it's just the community as well. it's just a great group. It's a connection that we make together as a group. And of course, back before COVID, this was something that we used to do in person, of course, right? So we would be in a room together. And so then there's that energy that you get from people too, which is kind of cool. Although I know that something like this, a lot of people do just enjoy doing it in their home because they feel more comfortable in that way. So either way, as long as people are getting benefit.
Hey, I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to wrap up our session for today. Thank you so much, Ginger, for taking the time out of your day to present for us and leading us through a meditation that I didn't even know I needed. And thank you all for such your great questions. And just letting you know, we do have 2 more sessions coming up tomorrow and Friday. So if you haven't registered, head to our website. And we're looking forward to seeing you all this week. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you, Ginger.
Very welcome. Thank you for having me.